I want to talk about color theory, even though, as you know, it's not simple, right? So you look at that color wheel and you're like, oh gosh, there's the primary colors and there's the secondary colors, and you can mix the secondary colors when you combine the primary colors. So purple is red and blue, but we know from our earlier chat that purple is stupidly hard. It's really, really hard to create a nice lilac-y purple, or any character of purple that you want is hard. And so it looks simple when we look at the color wheel, but in practice it is not. And then of course there's tertiary colors, which are this could go on indefinitely of the gradients inside the color wheel, of course, but in between orange and yellow, you have golden. So here are those two essential mixing strategies that you're going to love. So get out your pencils. Now is the time to take a note. Mixing strategy number 1, something I like to call mixing around the wheel. So if you want to create bright, saturated, and vibrant colors, you need to mix with analogous colors. And an analogous color is one that's near each other on the wheel, as if you were going around it like a clock. So you're looking at colors that are close to each other. And this will create colors that are bright, saturated, intense, vibrant, and they'll really pop. All right, second color mixing strategy, mixing across the wheel. All right, here's the thing with mixing across the wheel. When you mix a complementary color are the colors that are nesting across the wheel from each other. So here we have orange and blue. And when you mix those complementary colors, you will create neutrals, browns, taupes, grays, and dulled out colors. And those colors are beautiful. No colors are bad. It's just when you don't want to mix them is the problem, right? But when you want those neutrals and dulled out colors, they're perfectly beautiful. Like Michelle Morin, the artist I showed you earlier, who almost all of her colors are neutrals, browns, taupes, grays, and dulled out colors. And the way you do that is you just mix across the wheel. So a lot of times what happens when you are trying to mix a highly saturated color is that you will have there's a couple of things that can happen. Thing number 1 is your palette is contaminated. So you're trying to mix up a nice yellow, but there's a little bit of purple or another color that sneaks in there and it makes it neutral, right? And it doesn't take much. It takes a very small amount of color to contaminate another color. So you have to have a lot of discipline about how your palette is arranged. Another thing that can happen is your brush is dirty. You didn't rinse it enough. So you have to make sure that all color that is, left over from the previous painting is fully mixed out of your brush before you start a new color. And then the third thing that can happen is your paint water is dirty. So that, if you've been using your paint water for a while, I'm notorious of doing this, especially if you have a high staining color and you rinse it out in there and it's maybe not that much water, it will start to impede your overall color. So those are 3 things that can happen. And once you understand these 2 things, mixing around the wheel or mixing across the wheel, you will never have a problem again mixing the color that you want, as long as you can keep those things straight in your head as you are going about mixing the colors. Here we go. There's just Wolf Kahn and Michelle Morin next to each other, just as an example of what that can look like. The same idea. Michelle's mixing across the wheel and Wolf Kahn is mixing around the wheel to get those colors like that. In conclusion, you're here because you want to make art. You probably want to make more art than you currently do. What helps us to make more art? Being inspired by other artists, learning new techniques, being in a culture that values art. We had a bunch of other ones that came up earlier in the chat. And this is my personal mission. I want to help everybody to make more art. And one of the ways that I do that is why I created the Art Heart Academy and the Color Lovers Bundle. And this is my full library of every course I've ever made that's designed to help you to make art regularly. And every single course is about color mixing and building the colors that you want. So you can see these are some of the courses that are included. So we have watercolor for rebels, thick acrylic, hip gel, working with gel monoprints, Mixmaster. I'm going to talk about that one in just a second. And here is one of my members. She said, your courses are fun and engaging to watch, but also have a great combination of detail, inspiration, and explanation. And you don't witter on or waste time. I really like that. Some people on this call might be like, I don't know. I think Josie witters a little bit. My husband would say that I witter, but I appreciate what she was saying here. I would certainly buy your courses again in the future and recommend them to people. That was very kind. All right. And here's the thing. It is stupid cheap. Okay. I want to make this so accessible to people. This is not a hard sell, right? And you don't, this might not be your thing and you don't want to join, and that's totally fine. You can find plenty of other instructors out there in the world that can help you, but find somebody, right? Find somebody so that you can create that culture around making the art that your heart wants to make. All right. So there's two different ways you can do this. You can join per month. It's a membership. You can join per month, or you can join per year. I recommend per year because it's much cheaper than per month. And there's more than 100 different projects. So even if you did 2 projects of mine a week, it would take you a year to get through them all.